Right now, you're one decision away from a completely different life. Most people drift through life, reacting instead of creating. They wait, wish, and wonder why nothing changes. But what if I told you that your power, your real power, doesn't come from what happens to you, but from the decisions you make? This isn't just motivation. This is a wake-up call. In the next few minutes, we're going to explore the most important force you have, the power to decide. Are you ready? Let's talk about what separates those who live with purpose from those who live by accident. Step 1, decisions shape destiny. Every moment of your life has led you to where you are right now, not because of fate, not because of luck, but because of a series of decisions you've made. Think about that. Every relationship you're in or out of, every dollar in your bank account, the condition of your body, the direction of your career, it all traces back to decisions. Not just the big life-altering ones, like what career to pursue or who to marry, but the tiny, seemingly insignificant ones too. The choice to get up when the alarm rings or hit snooze. The choice to speak up in a meeting or stay quiet. The choice to invest in yourself or procrastinate on your growth. All of these shape your path piece by piece. Destiny isn't something waiting for you out there. It's something you create moment by moment. Too many people think life is something that just happens to them, like a storm they're forced to weather. But the truth is, you're not a passenger, you're the pilot, and every decision is a turn of the wheel. Even not deciding is a decision, and it comes with a consequence. The people who live powerful, fulfilled lives aren't the ones who always had it easy. They're the ones who decided to take control. They made a decision that enough was enough. They drew a line in the sand and said, this is who I am now. But here's the real power. When you realize that one single decision, one act of absolute certainty can completely reroute your life. You could decide today to leave an old identity behind. You could decide to never settle again. You could decide to lead, to love, to grow, to fight. That decision, made with enough intensity and clarity, will not only change your direction, it will change you. Because in that moment, you're not reacting to life, you're creating it. That's how decisions shape destiny. Not by chance, but by conscious, deliberate choice. Step 2, clarity is power. Clarity is the foundation of all great achievement. Without it, even the most talented, driven, or well-intentioned person can find themselves spinning in circles, busy but not productive, active but not effective. When you lack clarity, you hesitate, you question, you drift. You say yes to things that don't serve you and no to things that could have changed your life. And the worst part, you often don't even realize it's happening. You might feel overwhelmed, confused, frustrated, like something's missing. But in reality, what's missing is the blueprint, the vision, the decision to define what you truly want, without filters, without limitations, without fear. When you're crystal clear about what you want, everything changes. Your mind knows where to go. Your energy stops scattering in 100 directions and instead becomes focused, directed, and powerful. You wake up with purpose. You act with intention. And perhaps most importantly, you stop chasing distractions disguised as opportunities. You stop saying yes to things that don't align with your vision, because now you have a vision. Most people aren't held back by a lack of ability, they're held back by a lack of direction. They're trying to hit a target they haven't even defined. Clarity gives you something rare, certainty, and certainty is magnetic. People follow those who know where they're going. The universe begins to respond to a mind that's no longer confused. You start to attract people, resources, and experiences that are in harmony with your clarity. Why? Because clarity is power. It's a signal to yourself and to the world that you're no longer available for mediocrity, confusion, or playing small. You're no longer gabbling. You're committed. You're locked in. And when you're locked in, momentum builds. Decisions become easier. You don't need to debate every step because you already know where you're heading. You just take the step. You just move. You just do. Step 3, the power of now. There is a moment that holds more power than any other. It's not yesterday with all its regrets. It's not tomorrow with all its uncertainty. It's now, this very second. The present moment is where life happens, where decisions are made, where change is born. Most people live somewhere between the past and the future, constantly rehashing what went wrong or worrying about what might go wrong. They talk about what they'll do someday, waiting for the right mood, the perfect timing, the ideal circumstance. But someday is a myth. It doesn't exist. There is only now, this breath, this heartbeat, this choice. Every breakthrough, every transformation, every act of courage happens in the now. You don't change your life tomorrow, you change it by deciding today. In fact, you only ever have one shot at life, this moment, and most people waste it. They hesitate, they overthink, they wait for more information, more validation, more certainty, but power doesn't wait. Power lives in immediacy. It's in the person who feels the fear and takes action anyway. It's in the one who doesn't need to have all the answers before they move. They just know they can no longer stay where they are. When you operate from the now, you're no longer trapped by the inertia of your past or the illusion of a better later. You become a creator, not a reactor. Your energy shifts, your urgency sharpens. You realize that the gap between you and the life you want isn't time, it's decision. The faster you decide, the faster you move. The faster you move, the faster your world begins to shift, because life rewards speed, not recklessness, but decisiveness. The ability to say, I don't need to have it all figured out, I just need to move. Progress happens when you stop waiting and start doing. It's when you stop rehearsing your potential and start releasing it. And here's the truth. Everything you think you want, confidence, discipline, success, freedom, it all begins with action taken in the now. Not thought about, not planned, taken. The longer you delay, the further you drift. But when you claim the now, when you use it as your launch pad, you tap into a force that most people never experience because they're too busy hesitating. You don't need more time. You need more courage to use the time you already have. Step 4. Commitment creates momentum. Commitment is the bridge between intention and results. It's the point where dreams stop being abstract ideas and start becoming inevitable realities. Most people say they want something, success, health, love, freedom, but what they really mean is they'd prefer it, as long as it's convenient. True commitment, on the other hand, isn't convenient. It doesn't come with guarantees, and it doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It's messy, it's uncomfortable, and it demands that you show up even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, because that's the very thing that gives it power. When you truly commit, you take options off the table. You eliminate escape routes. You burn the boats and say, this is the only direction I'm going. That level of certainty ignites a different kind of energy, momentum. It's like lighting a fuse. At first it's small, just a spark, a flicker of progress. But commitment turns that flicker into fire, because with every step you take, with every obstacle you push through, your belief gets stronger, your identity starts to shift, and what once seemed difficult starts to feel natural. Not because it got easier, but because you got stronger. Most people never get to experience this because they live in the land of try. They dip a toe in, but never go all in. They give themselves permission to quit the moment it gets uncomfortable. But real commitment says, I don't care how long it takes, how many times I fail, or how many people don't believe, I'm doing this. And that kind of decision, that level of resolve, activates something powerful inside you. It makes your actions align with your vision. It removes the internal debate. You stop questioning whether or not you should continue, and instead focus all your energy on moving forward. Momentum is a force. It doesn't come from motivation. It comes from consistency. And consistency is born out of commitment. But once you make the real decision to commit, you start to build patterns, and those patterns become routines. And those routines become rituals that shape your future. It's no longer a matter of if something will happen, only when. Because you're no longer dabbling, You're not trying to make progress, you're embodying it. You've decided, and because you've decided, you're moving. And when you move with enough intensity and repetition, things start to compound, doors open, people notice, the game shifts. Not because the path got easier, but because you refuse to stop walking it. They purchase her supplements. Standards drive decisions. Your standards are the invisible thermostat of your life. They quietly dictate what you'll tolerate, what you'll settle for, and what you'll fight for. Most people think they're making decisions based on their goals or desires, but the truth is, they're making decisions based on their standards, what they believe they deserve, what they believe is acceptable, and what they believe is possible. If you want to understand someone's life, don't look at what they say they want, look at what they consistently allow, because that's where their standards live. Every decision you make is filtered through your internal set point of what's normal for you. If your standard is to be fit and healthy, you don't have to constantly decide whether or not to work out or eat well, it's automatic. If your standard is excellence in your work, you don't cut corners or show up halfway, you deliver every time. But if your standard is survival, then that's exactly what you'll get. Just enough to get by, never enough to truly thrive. The scary part, most people didn't consciously choose their standards. They absorbed them from their environment, their past, their parents, their peers, and now they live under those limitations as if they were law. But the moment you raise your standards, your entire decision-making process shifts. You start saying no to things you used to tolerate, mediocre relationships, low energy excuses, distractions. You start demanding more of yourself, not because you're trying to be someone else, but because you've decided that the old version of you is no longer welcome at the table. High standards force better decisions. They give you a reason to push harder, think bigger, and act bolder. They eliminate the option of settling. And the beautiful thing is, your standards are entirely within your control. You don't need anyone's permission to raise them. You don't need to justify them. You just decide that you're done living below your potential. And from that place, decisions become easier. They're no longer emotional, they're structural. This is who I am now, so this is how I behave. These are the choices I make. It's not about motivation anymore, it's identity. And when your identity is tied to high standards, your decisions align automatically. You don't negotiate with laziness or inconsistency, you override them. Because you've set a new baseline, you've drawn a new line in the sand, not based on what you hope to have, but on what you refuse to live without. Step 6, repetition builds power. Power doesn't come from what you do once in a while, it comes from what you do consistently. Repetition is the mother of mastery, and mastery is where real power lives. The truth is, anyone can make a powerful decision once. Anyone can have a flash of inspiration, a day of motivation, a burst of courage, but it's not that single moment that builds lasting strength. It's what you do after that moment, over and over again, that determines who you become. It's the repetition of intentional actions that forges identity, discipline, and momentum. When you repeat something with purpose, you don't just get better at it, you become it. Your body adapts, your mind sharpens, your emotions follow. What once felt foreign starts to feel natural. It no longer requires as much effort to do the thing because it becomes part of who you are. You're not just acting with discipline, you've become a disciplined person. You're not just chasing success, you've wired yourself for it. Repetition carves the grooves in your brain that shape your habits, and those habits shape your destiny. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And your systems are built through repetition, but here's the thing. Repetition isn't always exciting. It's not always glamorous. That's why most people abandon it. They chase novelty, always looking for the next hack, the next shiny strategy, instead of staying rooted in the fundamentals. The ones who win, who transform, who lead, are the ones who embrace the process. They find strength in the structure. They find freedom in the repetition, because they understand that excellence isn't a single act. It's a habit, reinforced again and again until it becomes second nature. Repetition also builds emotional power. When you consistently show up for yourself, even when it's hard, even when no one is watching, You develop a deep sense of trust. You begin to believe in your own follow-through. You stop needing external validation because your confidence is built on evidence that you can rely on yourself. That inner power becomes unshakable. It's not based on hype, it's based on proof. Proof that you can keep going, proof that you're resilient, proof that no matter how slow it feels, you're moving forward because you refuse to quit. Even the greatest performers in the world, from athletes to artists to entrepreneurs, don't rely on talent alone. They rely on relentless repetition, on drilling the basics, on doing the reps long after the excitement fades, because that's when the transformation really happens. Not when it's easy, but when it's routine, when the action is no longer driven by emotion, but by identity. You do it because it's who you are now. And when your actions and identity are aligned through consistent repetition, you don't just feel powerful, you become powerful. So here's the truth. Your life doesn't change by accident. It doesn't shift because you want it to, or because time passes, or because the stars align. It changes when you change. The most powerful way to change instantly, permanently, and with purpose is through decisions. But not just any decisions. Decisions made with clarity. Decisions made in the now, decisions backed by an unshakable commitment, decisions driven by higher standards, and decisions reinforced with relentless repetition. That's the formula. That's the pathway to power. You are not your past. You are not your fears. You are not your circumstances. You are your decisions. And the moment you decide to raise your standard, to break the pattern, to take control, not someday, but now, you begin to tap into the force that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. So ask yourself, what decision are you no longer willing to avoid? What line do you need to draw? Who do you need to become? Because the life you were born to live, the one you felt deep in your gut, it's not waiting for permission. It's waiting for a decision. Make it.